Hi, I'm Heather from GG Stitching, and in today's video, we're going to talk about fabric preparation. So you've gone out, you've bought your fabric, you've come home. Now what do you do before you cut? This is a debate in the quilting world. I don't know if this should be right up there in polite conversation topics that you don't talk about with people, kind of like politics and religion, because there's so many people on different sides of it. But we're going to talk about it today. So, pre-wash or not to pre-wash. There are reasons for doing both. And really, it ends up being personal preference and just understanding what it means if you choose to or choose not to, and how to combat that. So, pre-washing your fabrics. What are the pluses for that? Why might you pre-wash your fabric? It's a way to control shrinkage, meaning if you pre-wash it, it's already shrunk down to size. You don't have to worry about it shrinking once it's in your quilt. Um, some people like that distress. I won't say distress, but they like that look of it shrinking into the stitches. It kind of gives it that antique-y look. So that might be a reason why you don't pre-wash. So that's where those two sides come from. The color bleeding, the dyes, right? The color fastness. So you may do the pre-washing so that way you know that you've already gotten some of that excess dye out. No matter which way you do this, you want to use color catchers or dye magnets in the wash when you do it. That is going to catch those excess dyes and keep them from depositing on other fabrics. But there you go. If you don't pre-wash, you still use those and you're doing the same thing so that you have that. To remove the initial sizing or starches that come from the mill. Maybe you have sensitive skin and you want to make sure that that's all off of there. Wonderful. Part of the thing with that is that you remove the stiffness to the fabric and it makes it a little more slippery and a little harder to handle. But as long as you know that, fine. You can also use the type of starches or sizing that you prefer to help get that back after the fact. So those might be reasons. One of the other reasons, now one of the main reasons that I completely agree with pre-washing your fabric is if you are going to be doing any applique, so anything with fusible web or fusible interfacing, those don't stick or adhere to that sizing that's on there. So removing that helps when you're going to be doing an applique project. The main thing about that is make sure that you don't put any fabric softener or dryer sheets or use starch when you go back to prep and iron, because now you've put it back on there and your fusible web isn't going to stick as well. So that is one of the main reasons to not do it. Reasons to not pre-wash. Time. I would honestly say time is probably the biggest thing, is that in our busy lifestyles that we have with work and families and everything like that, you just want to come home and cut into your fabric and really enjoy it. But you just don't have time to do all that prep work ahead of time. I get it. Totally get it. So that is just when you need to know that, no, I have not pre-washed this. I need to make sure I use a color catcher or dye magnet when it's washed for the first time. If you're giving it as a gift and you have not washed that, make sure you gift a box of those dye magnets or color catchers to whoever you're doing that with, and give them a little note on how to use it so that way they don't ruin their quilt the first time they wash it. I would recommend that. If you're not sure that you're going to have enough fabric, let's say you go to your stash and you have 3/4 of a yard of fabric, and where you want to use it is using 26 inches. If you pre-wash that, that could shrink further in than that 26 and you may not have enough fabric. Just saying. So that might be a reason to not pre-wash. That's really the only thing that I can think of when I think of whether to or not to pre-wash. Honestly, I don't pre-wash a lot of things strictly because of the time thing and because I know the pitfalls of what's coming. One of the other reasons, though, to pre-wash, somebody gives you fabric or it comes from somewhere else. If you don't know if that fabric had been pre-washed, pre-wash it all. You want to make sure that if you are using pre-washed fabric in a project, all of the fabrics are pre-washed. You don't want them to shrink separately when you go to wash them. So that will mitigate that. If you have some fabrics that have been pre-washed and you just store them, and then you have others that are not, and you store them later, years later, when you go back to your stash, you're not going to remember which ones are which. Sometimes you can tell based on the fraying, but sometimes you can't. And so you don't want to mix whether you've pre-washed or not pre-washed fabric. So for a safety perspective like that, you might just want to pre-wash them all. If you pre-wash your fabrics and you need to then turn around and make them a little more easier to use, starch. Okay, starch is your friend. There's nothing wrong with starch. Best press is wonderful. I mean, you can see I'm almost out of this one actually. Best press comes in unscented so that you don't have to worry about that. I use linen. I like the fresh linen, but comes in lavender, really soothing. But anyway, this will help mitigate bias. Okay, so if you are doing something with triangles or anything like that, I will use best press on everything because I think that just really helps help you handle the fabrics when you're sewing. Starch, regular starch. If I mean, it's pricey. If you're can't afford it and you have, regular starch, fine, regular starch. The main difference between these is going to be, well, one, the scent. Okay, this one's a little stronger scent, but two, the flaking. Remember all the old-timey starches that we used, and you end up with flaking and white things. You can end up with a residue on your iron, and you don't, you want to make sure that you don't have that. So you're going to want to watch that. Can you use it? Yes. Just know that those are the things that you're going to watch for. So, iron cleaner. Okay, so not only if you're a regular starch person and you're going to end up with residue and flakiness on your iron, you want to get rid of that. You don't want it to scorch and be brown. Iron cleaner. But not only that, if you do any applique or anything like that with fusible interfacing, that you might get fusible stuff on here, this is iron cleaner, faultless iron cleaner. It's a cream. I squeeze it onto a washcloth or a towel, an old one that's meant for this, iron it off and clean it. You're gonna use your iron so much, you want to make sure that you take care of it. So you want an iron cleaner. Any of this stuff, I do have an affiliate link for Amazon. I will put that down in my description so that, to the products that I like. And that way you can go and read about them and see what they are. But so those are the basic to the pre-wash or not pre-wash. So it really is up to you. I can only give you the tools to make that decision for yourself, and no judgment here. None. I've done both. So whatever makes it easier for you to get to the sewing machine and quilting, I'm all for it. As long as you know what you're getting into and you know how to combat it. That's really, really how this works. No stress. We want this to be stress-free. If you have any questions, please ask away in the comments. If you found this video helpful, please like it. It helps me to know what content you guys like and what else to make videos about. And then please subscribe. It really does help to know that my channel is useful to somebody. So if you subscribe, that really does help. So I'm Heather from GG Stitching. Until next time, happy quilting.